Hey everybody, today's video is based on a question that I asked on Yahoo. It's a public question. I was watching Schindler's List the other day and it said an estimated 6 million Jews were murdered. So it made me wonder, how many people were killed during the course of slavery. So I had asked, is there any records of how many slaves, were killed throughout the course in, U.S. history or whatever. So this ignorant ass fool is gonna say it. I wrote this down just so you guys, and I'm gonna put a description. I'm gonna put, my links and my sources that I'm gonna be using in this video in the description box below. But anyways, he said not very many after all. Why would somebody pay good money for a slave just to kill it? Just because they're worth money doesn't mean, people wouldn't kill them. That's dumb. People pay for cattle and they kill them so you can eat them. So what's the difference, right? But he said, however many have been killed, it must not have been a lot. It certainly wasn't nearly as many as the number of white people that have been murdered by blacks since slavery ended. In fact, the most common hate crime in America today is black on white rape. He's an idiot, okay? For every white person that is killed by a black person, starting from the time slavery has ended, 12 black people have killed by a white person, okay? Actually, just to prove my point, I actually went on hate crimes website that the FBI records all the crimes committed, by blacks, whites, Hispanics, all of that. And basically, okay, so I started in 1996, even though it had been recorded since 1920. They had been taking records of crimes committed since 1929, if I'm not mistaken. Mind you, not all crimes are always reported, but I started in the 90s. Anti-black incidents were 3,674. That's a lot, okay? Offenses was 4,469, and victims were 4,600, okay? The anti-white crimes in 1996 was only 1,106 for the incidents. The offenses were 1,384, and the victims were 1,445. So either way you look at it, people don't like blacks more than they don't like whites. So for you to say that there are more hate crimes committed against white people, you're an idiot. Okay, let's fast forward to 2003. Anti-black for incidents was 2,548, offenses was 3,032, and victims was 3,150. So give or take from 1996 to 2003, I guess the tolerance of blacks has gotten, a little bit better. They've dropped by 1,000 for all the numbers. And let's go to anti-white offenses in 2003. It was 1,106 incidents for anti-white. It was the same pretty much. I just hate how people, yeah, black people commit a lot of crimes, but white people commit crimes too. So nobody's perfect. In fact, let's go through a couple of historic crimes that have taken place. Emmett Till, you guys may or may not know about him. He was 14 when he was murdered for whistling at a white woman. They tied a 70-pound cotton gin or something like that to his foot, gouged his eye out, and shot him in the back of the head. Mind you, he's only 14 years old. No matter what age you are, you don't deserve that just for whistling at somebody. And they threw him in the river, okay? And his kidnappers and murderers were acquitted of the crime, so they didn't even get in trouble. It's just funny how, like, black people fought in the wars back then, World War I and II, and they were praised in France and Germany. The Germans and the French people actually had more respect for the blacks, just because they're fighting in another country for their country that doesn't even give them the same respect that other races and religions and all that get. This is some facts that I've taken from different websites. Klan enrollment and activity peaked in the 20s, which is when the Tulsa race riots happened. And that started when this guy named Dick Rowland was trying to get on the elevator, and he fell. And to catch his fall, he grabbed this white girl's arm. So she starts screaming. He sexually harassed her, or raped her, whatever. Next thing you know, it was like two separate towns. Greenwood was like the black side of the town, and it was like the black stock market. a lot of people that was living in Greenwood basically came from nothing but built up a very good business. And it was in the depression. So for you to have money during the depression, that's pretty good. Um, but the white people went to Greenwood and basically burned out all their buildings, um, killed black people. They don't care if you're man, woman, just because of what somebody else said. You know what I mean? But they were killing people. They were tying up pregnant women, cutting their stomachs out, cutting their stomachs up, and watching the baby fall to the ground and stomping them. I was reading this. I'll put the description in your box. It's a long web page to read, but it has like a lot of detail as to other places just kind of condense it to important facts. That's it. That the website that I read it from was very detailed. So but basically they burned the whole black side of the town down from hearsay. It wasn't even they witnessed the black guy do it just from what she was saying. And then after it all, they called in the National Guard actually and were like perched on top of a building with a machine gun, shooting people in the street, shooting black people in the street. Man, woman, child, they didn't care. If you're black, you're getting shot. And even some white people got killed too because they were helping the blacks. But after it all, kind of died down, the black people went back to Greenwood and they tried to rebuild it, and they even went as far as to pass an ordinance saying that they couldn't rebuild there because they were trying to move the politicians and like um more of the white side of town onto their side of town. So basically, like a lot of people, after that happened, chose to move out of Oklahoma. But this is another thing. Susan Smith. I don't know if you remember her. I was young, but I still remember vaguely, what happened. But it was this Caucasian woman. I don't want to say white. I don't know if it's politically correct, but she was married to her husband, and they were on off and on. And then she started messing with her boss's son, I believe. And her boss's son didn't want to take care of her two kids from her previous marriage, even though they didn't get a divorce. But he didn't want to take care of the kids, and so, because she wanted to be with him, this sick bitch, okay, oh my gosh, just listen. This bitch strapped her two kids into the car seats, drove to the lake, the edge of the lake, hopped out of the car, put the car in park, and drove her kids pretty much into the lake, and they died, okay? She then frantically ran to somebody's building and knocked on the door, basically stating a black man hijacked her car and took her kids at gunpoint. And she kept the charade up for like 9 days, okay? And then let's see here. Then November 3rd, the police, started putting holes in her story because I guess the light that she said she stopped at where she got hijacked, it never turns red. She said she was at a red light. And the only time that light ever turns red is if there's other cars around, but she was the only one there, you know what I mean? So for her to say there was no cars there couldn't have been a red light. And as soon as the officer said that to her, she basically broke down crying, saying that initially she wanted to kill herself and her kids, but because the lights were on in the car too when they found the car in the lake. But because she had time to get out, get back in, press the gas or whatever for it to drive into the car, that right there lets you know you had no intention in killing yourself. Because if you were having second thoughts, you would have gotten your kids out that car. You know what I mean? So she's full of shit. Another man, this is so fucked up. Charles Stewart, okay? Um, he this happened in Boston in 1989. Him and his wife were leaving from a maternity. She was pregnant. His pregnant wife. They were leaving from some kind of like breathing classes, Lamaze classes, or something like that. And he drove to a predominantly black neighborhood, Mission Hill, pulled over, shot his wife in the head, killing her, and then shooting himself in the abdomen, driving away, back into the white side of town, calling the police, telling the police that a black man did it, and it caused racial tension, number one. Number two, people already, when they hear a crime, all they care about is, what color the person that did it. They really don't focus on the fact that just a crime happened. All they care about is was it a white person or a black person. That shit shouldn't matter. All that matters is somebody was killed, somebody was murdered, somebody was, even that's the same thing, but somebody was killed or somebody was raped. All that is the only detail that should matter in a crime. But later on down the line, I believe is like a week or two, the baby also died. She gave birth. Well, she didn't give birth, but they delivered the baby via C-section, and the baby died from seizures from lack of oxygen. So had he not waited, the baby would probably still be alive today. But the brother, Charles' brother, confessed to police that pretty much, he helped his brother. Initially, his brother lied to him and told him it was for insurance, but that's not what was wrong. He didn't want the baby, and he was allegedly having an affair. But for you to shoot your pregnant wife in the head, obviously you don't want the baby. But he was saying how he did it because his wife having the baby was going to keep him from his dreams. That's kind of selfish. You know what I mean? If you don't, you should express that to her. You killing her and your child, what did that do? And this coward ass dude, he jumped into the river the day after he confessed to his lawyer because his story was trying to, was getting holes poked in it from the police. And this man went as far as to ID this guy named Willie Bennett, who was already arrested from unrelated charges. He picked him out in a lineup and said that's the man who did it. Are you kidding me? So what if that man would have went to jail? What if he never would have started feeling guilty, which he didn't, but what if he never started feeling guilty? That man Willie would have went to jail because he is a liar. You know what I mean? So, after he killed himself, um, his wife's parents actually established the Carol Diamante Foundation to provide scholarships to Mission Hill residents. By 2006, they awarded $1.2 million to 220 students to go to college. So that was good. Something good came of it. However, my whole point of gathering these stories and this information and those statistics was to prove a point. Yes, black people commit crimes, but white people do too. And not only do white people commit crimes, but some of them like to lie on black people. It's a whole fear thing, I'm not saying people are afraid of blacks, but, if a group of blacks are walking down the street, most races will cross the street because they feel like if it's a bunch of blacks coming down the street, nothing good will come of that. And that's not true. Not all black people are bad. Not all black people commit crimes, and not all black people go to jail. So for that ignorant guy to say some shit like that to me, that shit just really pissed me off. No race is perfect and no race is pure. And the whole statistics about, not many slaves were killed, that's not even counting the ones that didn't even make it, to America. Some of them killed themselves. Some of them, banged on the boards of the ships to let in water and in turning drowning themselves and everybody around them. So what does that tell you if you rather die than go to another country to be sold? You know what I mean? But hopefully this helps some kind of ignorance that's out there, I just feel like if you're gonna start spewing a bunch of bullshit, know what the fuck you're talking about. Period. There's no point at all in making up shit. There's no point in all in, using your own personal feelings to justify crimes. Okay, yes, there are black people on welfare. Yes, there's black people in prison, but you know what? There's white people on welfare and there's white people in prison too. So it irritates me. It fucking pisses me off when I hear white people saying, "Oh, well, all you guys do is be on welfare and make babies, blah blah blah." So the fuck, so do y'all too. You guys are not perfect, okay? Period. And just like you talk about we kill each other, y'all kill each other too. Look at the Holocaust. They're white. It was Germans killing Jews, but the Jews are still considered white. When they go to fill out a job application, they don't click Jewish, they click white. So, with that being said, before you try talking about black people, look at yourselves. You just sound ignorant, okay? Ignorant. It's not intelligence. Never confuse the two.